So yeah, we're just going to do a little housekeeping this morning. I'll share just a general update with our audience. And then for those that were unable to attend the live session, I do have James and Max's contact information. So if you have additional questions, always happy to put you in contact with these two awesome individuals, because I know they're great resources when it comes to videography and photography and building your personal and professional brand. So let's run through a little housekeeping. It looks like everybody else is on mute, so appreciate you guys doing that. So here are just some general updates about our organization. Let me get here. I love when Zoom decides to freeze first thing in the morning. That's always fun. All right. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, we are celebrating 3 years. Hard to believe A to Z Biz Link has been around that long, but it's been a passion project of mine for a number of years. So kudos to all of you for your commitment to the business community and for trying to find opportunities to enhance your personal and professional life. So today we are talking about storytelling through videography and photography. And this is just a personal topic that I'm just so excited about. This request came in from our business community. They said, hey, we know that we need to build a brand, but how do we go about doing that? And especially now that we're living in this digital world, everybody wants to know how we can do that on social media and on our websites, and videography and photography are great ways to do that. So I have two experts here today. We have Max Anderson and James Patrick joining us. They will share all their great tips, best practices, and some secrets that I think all of you will be really interested in hearing more on. So for those of you unfamiliar, we were founded back in 2017. It's a professional development organization focused on facilitating discussions around today's modern workforce and leadership challenges. If you present the problem, we will do our best to help you find the right answers and solutions and resources here in our business community. We also are expanding. So we continue to expand into other markets. In January, pre-COVID, we were hosting events in Las Vegas and Reno. And now, hey, we're all back together hosting events on one platform via Zoom. So you may see some people from other parts of the country. We actually had somebody recently from Green Bay, Wisconsin. So our reach is actually growing that much further. So welcome everyone to our business community. We value your honest feedback. So I'm not going to lie, I'm not perfect, but I promise I'm committed to doing everything that I can to give you all the right resources that you need. So if you have any great feedback for me, certainly let me know. We did actually apply some of that feedback for our planning for 2021, and you'll see that in how we're structuring our events for next year. So what we're looking at for wrapping up the end of the year. So today we're doing storytelling. On December 8th, we'll have business development best practices. And then on December 22nd, we'll talk about legal business concerns and considerations for 2021. Now let's get into the good stuff, because I know everybody's thinking ahead about what 2021 will look like. So we'll have mini retreats. So rather than doing an event every Tuesday morning, where I think there is a lot of Zoom fatigue for so many of us, we'll actually be hosting an event once a month, and they'll have different primary focuses. So January, it's focused on awesome women in business. February, workforce. For those of you that love topics like today, we're having our branding series on March 9th. So stay tuned. More information will be coming out on our website and via social media. Thank you to our presenting sponsors, Fenimore Craig, Steelcase, Cragen and Pike, and Nevada State Bank, as well as all of our additional sponsors for continuing to support our initiatives and for being great leaders and role models in the business community. For those of you that are always looking for additional resources, we try to provide one central location where you can find all of them through a publication called Resources for Growth. It's a free publication. It's on our website, azbizlink.com/resources. And I even have free copies, hard copies, if you want me to mail you one. So certainly let me know about that. We have a podcast. The podcast is another great platform to get some great introductions and free content. We're also doing some weekly updates. So we have the Daily Biz Link featuring Jane Sabrinsky, as well as Stacy Mallon. So those are two other ones to check out. But let's be honest, you guys are here for one specific reason, and that's to talk about storytelling. So we did previously provide Max and James's bios and a little bit of information about their backgrounds. But since we have them here, I would love for Max to kick it off and introduce himself and share a little bit more about his background and why he's so passionate about building a brand through storytelling and videography and photography.
Awesome. Thanks for first off, thanks for having us. I'm really excited to be here this morning, and I'm excited to share what I know. I mean, I could talk about this for months, but I'll try to boil down as much as I can today. Little background on me. I'm a video producer. I've been creating videos for over 15 years now, 10 years of it pretty much professionally. I started freelancing shortly after I got out of high school, and then founded Picnic Tree Productions in 2012. I was doing that alongside of being an in-house video producer for a large tech company here in Scottsdale. And that's really where I got to learn how to not only create incredible videos, but also how to create marketing videos for a large brand. And so, we created everything from commercials to testimonials, recruiting videos, you name it, we did it. And so after being there for a little over 6 years, I left there to go to to Picnic Tree Productions full time, and that was in early 2019. Where now I'm taking what I've learned from the marketing side of things and the video production side of things there, move it into my own clients, and I'm offering that same high level of video production to anybody from mom and pops to Fortune 500s.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for being here. And as you just heard, obviously we have him here for a reason. So really excited for him to share some more insight. So let's kick it over to James. James, would you mind just doing a self-introduction here before we kick off today's conversation?
Thank you so much for having me. And Max, you forgot to mention how damn cute you are in that sweater.
I don't know, man. I think you might got me there.
Yeah, you know what? That's just a sign that Max and I have worked together for a little bit too long when we start to dress identical, even though we're in two separate locations. So, yeah, my name is James Patrick. I've been a photographer for 20 years, and in that time, I have shot more than 500 magazine covers. But in addition to my photography business, I am a best-selling author. I am the founder of the annual Fitposium conference, working with health and fitness entrepreneurs to build, market, and profit from their brand within the health and fitness space. So this is a topic that is very near and dear to me, because being able to build the foundation of how you are sharing your own brand, how you're getting your brand in front of the right audience, is something that is very important to me. I'm also an entrepreneur coach. I run my own podcast. So this is a conversation that I'm actually really excited to have, and super excited that Max is here, because he's someone, like I said, I've worked with Max for 10 years now. When it comes to crafting that motion or that video element in that brand story, I mean, Max and I have worked together on countless projects. So super excited for this conversation.
So the one thing that I've learned in my career of being in business development and marketing is the importance of building your brand, and how you have to be proactive about putting your brand out there, because otherwise other individuals, other businesses will try and write that narrative for you. So I'm curious, through your experiences, either personally or with working with other leaders in the business community, what are the most important aspects of digital storytelling through videography and photography?
Who do you want to jump on that first, Max?
I could start off just stating something. So restate the question: the most important aspects of storytelling for brands. Is that right? Okay. I mean, I think the biggest thing about storytelling, and the reason why storytelling is so important in visual media, is engagement. And so if you're not engaged, then you're not going to come back for more, and you're not going to finish watching or, flipping the page to the next image if it's not engaging you. So what storytelling really does is it keeps you going and wanting more. It sets you up to want more and come back more and more every time. So whether that be within a magazine, or whether that be, even on Instagram, like with your Instagram stories, that's why they call them stories, because you're telling a story, but nobody's going to come back and, view your stories or view your content if they know that they're not really going to get something out of it. And subconsciously, people don't realize that they're getting something out of it because it's giving them some sort of value, whether or not it be entertainment, in information, or just, maybe just literally just telling a story. But you're telling a story whether you know it or not. And it could be a really good story, or it could be a really bad story. So if you're setting your audience up for that expectation and then that consistency, Consistency is a huge part of that, where, you know, your brand isn't going to be successful if you're not consistent with the stories that you are telling. If you're saying one thing one day and then you're saying it from a different voice the next day, people aren't going to know what to expect from you, and they might just write you off. So it's really important to continue to tell that story, you know, consistently, you know, every time, so people kind of know what they're getting into. That's a quick 30,000 foot overview, I think.
Well said. I would add to that, if you're not part of the conversation about really the narrative of your brand, it's still happening without you. And that's something that we really have to take ownership of. We are responsible for setting the foundation for what the brand story is, be it for our businesses, for ourselves as entrepreneurs. And after that, it is up to the consumer's perception of that brand. Okay, so we're either a part of this conversation or we're not part of this conversation. But what this really comes down to is you have to really hone in on where the economic landscape is right now for businesses. In whatever industry you choose to be in, and I'm guessing there's a myriad of different industries that are a part of this organization. If you didn't think your industry was crowded before this year, it is absolutely crowded right now. Okay. I've literally never met a business owner, an entrepreneur who says, oh, my industry is not saturated at all. I'm the only person doing this. All right, it oversaturates. So the question becomes, how do you stand out in an oversaturated industry? How do you break through all the noise and clutter? And you might be trying some stuff, posting some stuff on social media, and you know, you get 2 or 3 likes from your coworkers or from your best friend who wants to give you some support, but you're not breaking through that threshold on getting that message in front of the right audience. And what we really want to hone in on is you have to understand that consumers are way too savvy, and also they're dealing with the same crowded attention crash that we all are dealing with, because we are constantly bombarded with messages. And I don't know about the people on this call, but when I get on social media, I am not on social media to be sold to. I'm not on social media to get a bunch of advertising messages thrown into my eyeballs. I'm on social media to see stuff that entertains me, stuff that inspires me, stuff that educates me. Like, that's why I'm there. I'm there to connect with other people. So you are battling against that desire to push away advertising, to push away marketing messages. And the emphasis of story, and why, you know, this kind of storytelling has become such a trend in the last few years, is it's a way to start to cut through the noise with a clearer signal. But it's important to understand that you as a business owner, or you as someone who works for a business, you and your business, you have to own whatever your platform is. So the whole idea of being a generalist or trying to market to the masses does not work anymore. You have to get so specific and so niche to own the platform and tell your story. Because if you're trying to tell, and Lindsay, you kind of led into this, and you had said, you know, renting narratives. Someone might rent your narrative. If you are not owning your platform and you're trying to share a platform with other people, you're going to get lost in a sea of sameness. So I feel like one of the beats that's going to come up a lot in this conversation is how to tell a story that's unique to you, but also importantly, a story that matters to your consumers. Because at the end of the day, if your story doesn't matter in the context of your audience's lives, it's just another thing that I have to ignore.
I think this ties back into business planning and thinking about the bigger picture. So a lot of people, they know that they need to be doing more, right? They know that they need to be putting out more content on social media. They need to be building their brand and being proactive about that. However, they're not thinking through the long-term story and where they want to be and where they're heading with it. So they'll produce one really great piece. However, because they're not consistent, then they kind of fall by the wayside and people lose sight of who they are. So do you have any tips for people that are just starting to think through this as far as how they can go about building that narrative as they enter 2021?
Yeah,
Max,
I can hop in that. Sure. So I think with anything in life, in business especially, you have to start off with a goal. You're not gonna know what story you're gonna tell, because if you don't have the goal set ahead of time, you know, you might start off by just trying to imitate people and just being like, oh, like, I'm really entertained by what Gary Vee does, so I'm going to try to emulate what Gary Vee does. But you know, Gary Vee's got totally different goals than you do as an individual and as a brand. So you have to think, number one, before you tell your story, what is it that you want to get out of being out there and telling that story? And it's really important not only to set a goal, but to set a specific goal. So and create each video from the video side of things. create each video with the specific goal in mind, not just I want to make more money, but hey, this video specifically is going to help people drive signups to a webinar like this. So, and then that webinar eventually, down the line through the networking and maybe the value that you've provided to that person, will end up in sales, but not immediately. Another example would be to sell a house. I'm not going to create one silver bullet video to sell a home. I'm going to be out there all the time being known as the realtor or the person who's an expert in my industry. So that way, when that time comes where, person A or maybe one of their relatives is looking to buy a home or sell a home, I'm going to be the first person that they reach out to because I've already established myself as the expert in that industry. So, a video in that specific sense would be like, hey, maybe some information about what a short sale is and why it's important to know that type of stuff, or to send traffic to an open house, maybe this Saturday, just little bits to chip away at the end goal of what you really want to do. End goal really is to, for many businesses, all businesses, is to be profitable and make money, but it's not that's not the specific goal that you need. So start off with the goal. And then I could talk all day about audience. You really need to know who you're talking to. Number two. So not every audience is going to respond the same way to every single video. So an audience on your Instagram is not going to respond the same way necessarily as an audience within an email campaign or on LinkedIn. So where are they going to be? Is going to be on your website, and know exactly what that audience is looking for and the tone that they're looking to receive, the type of words that they're willing to receive. Some people might be at a higher level and you can say more of the lingo and the jargon and they'll understand it. But if you're saying that to somebody who's maybe at an entry level state, it's going to go way over their heads and you're going to lose them right away. So kind of know not only your goal, but your audience. James, what do you think?
The biggest mistake that I see when we talk about storytelling, because I want to get into specifics. I don't want to stay too up here because I want the people who are tuning into this or watching the replay to be able to, as they go back into their office, to be like, okay, this is our steps moving forward. The biggest issue that I see is businesses will focus on just who they are and what they do, but they fail to focus on why it matters. And this is what Max was talking about, the why it matters. Excuse me, the why it matters is always in the context of the client's lives. So your brand story is who you are and what you do. But most importantly, why does this matter? If I'm a consumer of yours, why am I paying attention? Why does this matter to me? And to get that final answer, what you have to do is you have to look into your aspirational client and you have to look at where they are today. Who are they? And you can look at, there's this new theme of looking at like a community instead of like a client avatar, a community avatar. Who is this community? What is important to them? Why are they showing up? What do they need? What do they want? And then what is their aspirational identity? Okay. Because every one of your consumers has something that they need. They are here. They need to be here. So what does that aspirational identity look like? What does it feel like? Is it more success? Is it a healthier lifestyle? Is it more money? Is it more security? You have to really drill in on that. Now, between these two elements, there's a gap. Okay, where they are today and where they want to be tomorrow. Your storytelling is bridging this gap. When you tell a story, whether it's on your social media, whether it's on your website, your about page, in your newsletters, it doesn't matter. Let's take the word digital out of it. Whether it's in, Lindsay, you said you had a printed magazine. Your printed magazine tells a story. It's to get your audience from where they are today to where they want to be tomorrow. Your job in storytelling is to bridge this gap. So what really matters is we're kind of unpacking this is not your story, but your client's story. Because that's, we as consumers are selfish, rightfully so. We want to know what's in this for us. So, there's a couple different story types that you could tell. You can tell stories of achievement or stories of overcoming obstacles, a story of coming up against a system, right? But what I'm looking for as the person who's watching the story or listening to the story is, well, what does this do for me? How is this going to get me from where I am today to where I want to be tomorrow? So this is moving from using very general language and like I said earlier, I work with a lot of health or fitness coaches. So kind of the common language I hear is, unlocking your true potential, or, manifesting your true path as a leader. It's like, wow, that sounds really great. But what the hell does that actually mean? But if you're instead telling me a story of, listen, I'm going to show you how to make more money. Listen, I'm going to show you how to get more clients. I'm going to show you how to stand out on social media. That's the story that matters to me, because I can connect the dots from where I am today to where I want to be tomorrow. You've bridged that gap for me.
James, I'm so excited that you actually brought that up, because I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They start talking about themselves rather than talking to their clients about the what's in it for me component. So, because you are such an expert in the photography space, how do you tell a story about your clients with photography when you're taking pictures of your business or about your business? Do you have any tips or ideas there?
It all goes down to the end goal, and Max edified this. What is the end goal? And let's reverse engineer that end goal. So if I'm shooting, like, a lot of my work is for magazines. So if I'm shooting for like a magazine cover, I know their end goal is to sell a lot of covers. Okay. They need that cover to stand out from any of the other magazines that look the exact same in that given month. So I have to pull something out of that subject, supposing I'm working with a subject that they didn't even know was inside of them. Okay, that's going to get that, because what do you see on a magazine? You see like this much of someone's head because another magazine's right in front of it. And I have 30 days before that magazine's off newsstands and another one's on there. So I have to create something that speaks to a someone just walking past a newsstand that jumps out at them. Okay. Now that would be different from, let's say, a commercial campaign. Like last year, we shot a campaign for eBay, and it was literally 8 hours of someone putting something in a box and someone taking something out of a box. That was the overall creative aesthetics. But the narrative was, we had scripted this narrative of, this was an individual who took over a business and was running a business out of her garage and was creating her own journey as an entrepreneur. That's the narrative we told. So we're communicating the story through eBay of entrepreneurship, of owning your own business, of leveraging their technology, right? Leveraging their technology to be able to grow your success. So that was the story that was constructed for this specific campaign. And this campaign was run, it was a web only campaign. We did another campaign for, I'm blanking on the name, but it's a nonprofit organization dealing with those with gambling addictions. And it was a series of portraits of people overcoming an addiction to gambling. So you had to show that element within their face or within their eyes that, listen, this is something I'm struggling with, but this is something that I am overcoming. So that kind of glimmer of confidence. And that's in the direction of how you're working with people. Now that's talking about, these different projects here. So to drill this down, this is something that we work on, because the phrase content creation came up, and everyone needs to be a content machine. You need to be pumping out content. And Max brought up Gary V, and that can bring up a lot of stress for people. Like, oh my God, how am I supposed to be on social media, posting 1,000 times in a week, creating this endless pool of content while still doing my job? And how do I think about that? So let's hone in a very simple system. Your job is, once again, to bridge this gap for your clients. Okay. And let's look at social media exclusively, because I want to move the people on this call from reactive posting to proactive posting, where you're not just sitting there in the morning like, what the hell am I going to post today? I don't know what to post today. To proactive, I know what's going out today because it's already in our system. All right. So the best way to do that is you start once a week to come up with one topic a week. So let's just say, Lindsay, what do you do? What is your role?
Well, I wear a lot of different hats, but I'm just thinking today is Giving Tuesday. So maybe we should use that as like our theme of the week.
Okay. So the essence of giving. So who's your target audience?
I think that would be any corporate end user. Let's say we're sitting in the standpoint of a nonprofit and you're trying to bring in more donors. So you probably would try and target different executives in the business community.
Okay. So a theme for this week is targeting corporations to donate to nonprofit organizations. So how a nonprofit organization can empower corporations to donate. Hey, that's a great theme. And by the way, that's a theme that you can mine over and over and over again. So what you do, let's just say at the start of the week, is you kind of sketch out as much as you can say about that theme. All right. So you write about it from a couple, they're fast, spend 5 minutes doing this. You come up with a bunch of notes about this idea of this theme. Okay. Then you record a major piece of content. Now, one of the easiest ways to do this is to do a video. So you get Max over there and you film a video talking about everything you wrote down, basically your approach on this given topic. Okay. From there, you now have a video that goes to YouTube. You take a clip of that video, that becomes a 1 minute clip on Instagram. You take the audio from that video, that becomes your podcast. You take the transcript from that video, that becomes your weekly newsletter. You take a quote that you said, that becomes an inspirational quote tile that you post later in the week on Instagram. You take that same quote and you post that up on Twitter. Now, all of a sudden, you're getting an entire week's worth of content, if not more, from a single idea, single piece of content. So your job is not to have to think of something to post 365 days out of the year. One idea a week can really yield you almost an infinite number of things that you can be posting. And then you have to have a CTA at the end of every post, call to action at the end of every post, which drives back in. So what do you want me to do now that I've consumed this content? Your audience can be conditioned to follow whatever it is that you're telling them to do. So for example, if the CTA is, hey, go here to learn more, click here to donate, click here to subscribe, click in here to get into this next step. Or by the way, we're giving you 10 steps, get the 11th step by going here. The more you have a CTA, the more you're conditioning your audience to take that next step.
And to that point, and those are all incredible points. I think a lot of people would tend to, they see what's going on with other people that are really good at doing content creation, video production. They're good on camera, and they get really stressed out and uninspired. They're like, I could never do that. I'm not that good on camera. And I hear that every single day because I work with people who are not actors. They are people in the business world who, get on camera maybe once a year, if ever. And, one thing that I've learned with working with people in that exact scenario is that anybody can do it. It's just a matter of letting go of all the preconceived ideas that you had about what you're supposed to do and just be yourself. And that's another hot word right now is authenticity, but it's really true. If you're authentic to yourself, it's going to be so much easier to create that type of content, to get on camera, to write those posts, to create content in general, because you're not trying to emulate somebody else. You're trying to just be yourself. Because if you're trying to be somebody else, you might be able to hold that for maybe a year, maybe a little bit more, but then you're going to burn out because you're trying to be somebody that you're not. And if you're always trying, you're gonna get easily burnouts. But if you're yourself, you're going with the flow. You're just doing your thing. You don't have to be that Gary Vee. And people will still come to you to view your content. And so one example that I really like to use is if you go to like Food Network, there's 50 different chefs on Food Network, and they all make lasagnas. They all make the same stuff. But I go to see Bobby Flay because I like the way that Bobby Flay operates. I like the way he talks. I like the way that he walks. I like what he does. And I just like the structure of his show, let's just say. Now I might want to go to somebody else, maybe like Rachel Ray or something. And I like the way that she is because she's loud and she's fun. And she's literally doing the exact same thing in the end. The end product is exactly the same, but it's the way that she got there. And she's being herself. So I'm going to be gravitated towards her. So you're not trying to create content for everybody. You're just trying to create content for that one person. And that one person's got many other people that are just like them. So if you can kind of boil it down to just being yourself, somebody else, if you like it, somebody else will likely like it as well. And it'll just be a lot easier going forward to just be that authentic side of yourself.
Oh, you hit the nail on the head there, buddy. And that is so true. And it just goes back, like, it's easy for Max and I to sit here and kind of espouse our advice as people who, like, Max has filmed countless hours of video. Max has been on camera countless times. We're sitting here on mics. Like, we spend thousands of hours on the mics to be comfortable or sound halfway competent being on a mic. But I got to be honest, like, there's this adage that the worst 10,000 photographs you're going to take are your first 10,000 photographs. Yeah, I've shot 500 magazine covers. My first photographs when I was 19 years old, they freaking sucked. My first podcast absolutely sucked. My first blog articles absolutely sucked. My first rendition or when I was trying to write a book, it really sucked. You have to get through that. There's no way not to get through that. You just have to get through it and kind of almost celebrate the suck in a little bit, because that is where you start to find your voice, or you start to find that kind of authentic inner voice that really propels you forwards only by doing.
And if you wait until you're ready, you're never going to be ready. So if you think, oh, my first 10,000 photos suck, I'm not going to post any of these. Well, the people that are following you don't have the same experience that you do. And they might be looking up to you for the type of content that you're creating. And they're following you along your journey and seeing you progress and progress. And so if you get to that point where you're saying like, oh man, like I'm not as good of a photographer as James, why am I even trying? Well, why are you comparing yourself? Your comparison is really going to just hold you back. So if you're just letting yourself go, being yourself, there is an audience out there for you. There's 7 billion people in the world. Somebody's going to connect with you. So, and James, his story is totally different than my story. So let's share mine and, try not to compare. I think that's really important, that people just don't limit themselves. Perfection is the enemy of done. You're never going to end up getting it done if you don't even start. So go ahead and just try to start and then learn as you go.
Yeah, some great advice there. So I think one thing that 2020 has proven to all of us is the fact that we don't have to be perfect, and nobody is really expecting that anymore. When we were watching the news, we were seeing news anchors sitting in their living room. And so we did see that more authentic, real side of a lot of different people that a lot of us idolized or looked up to. So because of that, I think that's broken down some of those barriers, and it's made it a little less intimidating for us to get started with producing some additional content. But James and Max, I would like to get your advice. If we're just getting started, I'm sure there are some how-to best practices that we should try and abide by. So as it relates to creating more content through videography and photography, what are the must-dos when we're getting started with it?
So if I were to have to do this for our companies, what I would start to look at is, what are the goals with the company? So this goes back to your business plan. Like, are we trying to achieve a certain number of new clients? Are we trying to target a new industry? Are we just adding to our current vertical, or are we expanding our market base? Okay. So once I understand what the goals are, then I can start to reverse engineer the marketing collateral that needs to go with it. So for example, we are launching a new vertical right now. We have a current vertical, which has been working really well for us. And this new transition for us is to target really kind of what we're talking about on this live training, which is how to stand out in a crowded marketplace. Okay, so this is going to be a new product for us. So revealing it here, how to stand out in a crowded marketplace. Okay, so once I understand that, now I can start to think, okay, who is this going out to? All right, who is this audience? Let's build what this audience looks like. And I can sit down with my digital marketing manager or whoever's running my Facebook ads, or if it's you yourself, I can start to build that profile. Okay, where are they today? Where do they want to be tomorrow? What is the solution that is going to bridge that gap? Okay, how do we get their attention? And for us, how we're getting their attention is we're creating a free guide, a free training. It'll be like a downloadable ebook, maybe a free video course on how to get them from here to here. Once we have that, because there's 3 phases that I think about when I think about client acquisition. The first phase is awareness. Awareness is everything you do in your outbound marketing. Awareness is running ad campaigns. Awareness is getting in local media. Awareness is presenting to a group like this. This is all awareness marketing. It's getting people to know who you are and what you do and why it matters. From there, it moves into nurturing. So just because someone knows you exist doesn't mean that they like you enough or that they trust you enough to do business with you. So you have to build rapport with them. That's in the nurture phase. And the nurture phase going into 2021 is significantly longer than it has ever been. All right. We're not swiping a credit card the second we meet you. Okay. We have to be nurtured. We have to know that you, the person trying to sell me, care about me. You care about my goals. You care about bridging this gap for me. Okay. So the nurturing is everything we do on social media. It's the newsletter, it's the Instagram post, it's your podcast, it's your social media campaign, whatever you're doing, it's the free guides you're giving out. All of it is nurturing your audience to build trust and rapport so that they know unequivocally that you are the right person to get them from here to here. Then the third phase is conversion. So conversion is moving them from that nurture phase into, hey, here's a CTA of you can invest in this thing or this service or this solution, the thing that's going to get you that last step. So to get back to your question, which is, as we're kind of creating this collateral, we develop who this person is, and then we're going to go and everything from how we design the cover of this ebook to what I'm going to wear in the video, because you're going to see that still frame of this video, to what I want the tone to be in this video, to what our headline is going to be, needs to go back to who is this person, where are they today, and where do they want to be tomorrow? All right. And how do we bridge that gap? And how do we show them that we are the person, or we are the people who are going to be entrusted enough to get them there?
Love it. I think, a big thing that holds people back and something that can be done really quickly is by breaking down any barriers that you might already have set up that prevent you from content creation. So for video production, it might be, hey, my room is a mess, or I don't have the right gear, or whatever. And a lot of them are mostly mental barriers of, okay, how do I get past this, and how do I set myself up to where when I'm ready to start creating content, I've got nothing in my way and I can actually just get started right away. So one thing that I've been preaching, especially since Zoom has taken over the world right now, is creating a home studio space where you always do all of your content every time you're there, and when I mean content, it's literally even just a business meeting or a webinar, or something. If someone calls me up and says, hey, are you open for a video call? Yes. I've already got my camera set up. I got my light ready to go. All I got to do is just turn everything on and I'm ready to go. So get rid of any barriers that you would have to create that content. And another barrier is, I don't have the right camera for this. Like, I can't create this because my camera isn't a good camera. I'm just using my phone. Well, I got a newsflash for you. We're almost in 2021 and phones are the number one content creator in the world. And so you should be using your phone right now. And, if it doesn't look like you're using a really high-end professional camera, that's okay, because people are expecting that type of content now. And especially if you're posting on Instagram and social and things like that, it's encouraged, and back in the day, filming up and down, this was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, filming vertically used to be a stigma, and nobody would, even, pass the time watching that video. But now these content platforms are gearing their platforms for vertical video. So kind of know where you're going to put it and then film it in that way that it's going to be accepted. YouTube, another thing that's really important to know is that YouTube is the second largest search engine right behind Google. And so when people are making purchasing decisions, they're doing research before they make that decision on YouTube. So they're looking up reviews, they're looking up how-tos, tutorials, things like that. So you better be out there creating that content, because if you're not, somebody else will be, and they're going to be the ones making the end sale on that. So if you think that you're not ready to go, there's no better time than now to get started and get out there and start producing that content.
A lot of it also is you have to test stuff. There's no way to know for sure what is going to work unless you put things into the marketplace. And Max, I'm so glad he brought this up when he said perfect is the enemy of done. Okay. Because we will hold back on ideas. We'll hold back on collateral, trying to perfect it, release it to the market, maybe in a year when it's perfect. And then turns out it wasn't perfect. There is no perfect. The only thing that gets you closer is putting stuff out there. And an example of this is we had released 2 lead generators at the beginning of this year, one of which was going gangbusters for us. I mean, our acquisitions per client we got it to under $1, and at some points we got as low as 25 cents an acquisition. Okay, which is insane. Like, that is unheard of. The other one, which I thought would do better, by the way. I thought it would do better. It was costing us $8 to $10 per acquisition. And the only way we figured that out was by releasing both to market and testing to see what worked. This is part of that process of finding that voice, of putting things out into the market to see what is going to work and then what is resonating with your audience. Now, when it comes to testing, because this is something that I see people do, they hone in on their platform. Let's just like, I have a client who their platform that they're honing in on is, I'm going to help you break up a stress. Like, what a clever, unique platform. Like, I am the stress divorce lawyer. Okay. So whatever you have, and as if anyone's going to say they're not stressed in life, right? Now, if she goes out and she posts for a couple of weeks about stress management or how to break up with stress, and it is kind of crickets, she's thinking, well, this doesn't work. And then she goes and tries something else for 2 to 3 weeks. And then that doesn't work. And she goes and tries something else for 2 to 3 weeks. You have to give something some time to really test, to get feedback from your audience to see if this is really working. So you have to own this platform, whatever platform you choose that is your own, not someone else's. You have to stand on it for a significant amount of time to really entrench it in the minds of your target audience. And this is what we call omnipotent marketing, which is everywhere you go to reinforce this platform. There's a reason I bring up the fact that I've shot 500 magazine covers. That is not a brag. That is by design. Because when I come across someone who wants to be on magazine covers, guess what? That resonates with them because it's about what that message does in the context of their lives. When Max runs his business at Picnic Tree, his job is to help people tell their story in a way that they never even knew was possible. So everything he's pumping out, from client testimonials to social proof to curating, even just interviewing the CEOs at corporations, it is all about getting them to tell a story in a way that they did not even know was possible to resonate with their audience. But you have to get stuff out and you have to test, because that's the only way you're going to see what works, what resonates, and what doesn't. And there's no failure in what doesn't work. That's just part of the process.
That's a really good point, James. And so I've got a buddy who's who does marketing for other types of companies as well. And for one company that he was working with, it was a chiropractor, and they did a test themselves. And the test was, let's go on Facebook Live every day for 30 days and just start creating all sorts of different types of content. And they created their content list, and they went live every single day, tried new things out. And then they looked at it and they said, okay, which videos were performing the best? And they were looking at not only views, but engagement. So that's likes, comments, shares, things like that. And the highest engaging 5 or 10 of them, they just put a ton of money towards and promoted those videos. And because they knew that those were the ones that were performing the best, and so they're going to get more bang for their buck because they know the engagement was much higher on those. So that's another really easy way. It's kind of a free way to do some testing to see what's going to work. Start putting stuff out there, see what's getting the most engagement, and then if you decide to, kind of get up and promote that content as well.
We had briefly touched about technology, and we had mentioned how, our phones can serve as a great resource, but I'm curious, are there any other applications, resources, platforms, anything else that you would recommend that our consumers look into today that would potentially help them with building that brand?
Max,
I think
for that.
If you're looking to get into video production, and I would highly recommend, if you're going to do any editing of any sort, editing can be kind of like that scary word because a lot of people don't know what's involved in it. And just like anything, once you start diving into it, it's a lot easier than you thought it was going to be. And I've done a lot of research on different types of editing apps. I wouldn't really edit on your phone if you can help it. So there's an app called Adobe Rush. It's essentially the entry-level editing software from Adobe, and they make all the high-end, creative products right now. But Adobe Rush, it's like $10 a month, and I think you can get 30 days for free. But essentially, what happens is it's like a really boiled-down version of Premiere, which is the more complex editor, and it's made for entry-level content creators who are looking to film something on their phone and then easily transfer it over to their computer where they can finish the edit there. So you can add transitions, effects, you can crop it down for specific platforms. So if you're looking for a 16:9 or a 9:16, depending on if you're going vertical or horizontal, it can help you with that. It makes it super easy to create the content that you're looking for and then share that, reducing that barrier of entry that we were talking about. So Adobe Rush, I would highly recommend looking into, and you can get it on your phone and on your computer. It's on all platforms. So would highly recommend that for sure. Another thing, a quick tip is that on any smartphone these days, there's a quick kind of camera hack. I mean, you could even take your phone out right now, and it's a feature that's built into your phone that you don't really realize. But exposure and focus is super important when it comes to video and photo, of course. But if you just take your camera and everyone knows the tap feature where it'll tap and it'll focus and expose correctly for what you want to take a photo of or a video. But if you just kind of hold that down, it'll do what's called a focus and exposure lock. And essentially, no matter what you do, it won't change your exposure or your focus. So if you set it up on a tripod, or if you're walking around a house and you don't want to have the background being all blown out and you're kind of turning into a shadow, you can change that, and you can actually adjust your exposure by just moving your finger up and down on the side once you get that exposure lock going. So you can properly expose your images and your video with something that's already built into your camera. And that's a free thing that comes with it. So it's super easy to do as well.
The only thing I would add is I would never want technology to be a barrier to creating something or releasing something. My wife and I would go hiking a lot, and I'll lug around my $5,000 cameras. We're climbing mountains, and I'll sit for 4 hours making photos while she's waiting impatiently for us to get on with the hike. And I'm like, no, the sun's not in the right place just yet. And I got to be honest, I take better photos with this thing that just works. So whatever it is, everything is figure outable. Just Google anything, you can figure it out. YouTube anything, you can figure it out. And even if it's not perfect, get it out anyway, because once again, you need to get stuff out in the market. And your audience does not need this perfectly polished. You're running a TV spot, you want a bigger production value. You're doing a shoot for a specific reason, you're going to want a certain production value. But for your general content, your audience does not care if it's perfectly polished. They're not judging you if you say the wrong word. They're not holding it against you if the camera shakes real quick. These are not issues that are actually preventing your message from reaching your audience. They're excuses on why you're not releasing your content.
Yeah, there's a really popular, very talented brand photographer named Chase Jarvis, and he's got a book that's called "The Best Camera is the One That's With You." And essentially what he's saying by that is don't let your gear, exactly what James was saying, don't let your gear be the thing that stops you from creating. And this is just a book of just iPhone photos that he took. He's got, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gear that he's using. And, he's using his phone for these incredible photos. So it's less about what you're using and it's more about how you're using it.
So for a lot of us, it comes down to time and resources. And not always do we have the time or resources within our own companies or on our teams. Or for entrepreneurs, we may be running a team of one, and we just can only do so much in a given day. So we'll look to different resources such as James or Max's companies. So I'm curious, could you just share some ideas as far as how businesses or individuals could look to leverage professionals such as yourselves if they don't have the time or the energy to do it?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, James. Yeah, I was just going to say, James is the king of delegating, and that's something that as I'm continuing to build Picnic Tree up, delegating is the number one thing right now. Scaling is impossible if you're trying to do everything yourself. And so James, you do an incredible job with that. You obviously, we've been working together for a long time, and I do all of your videos, but you've got an entire team of people that, help you create Fitposium and all these other things. So I'm going to let you take this one for sure.
Sure. And I don't want to fall under that trap of just saying, well, just hire a bunch of people and all your problems will go away, because you may be an entrepreneur and you may not have the resources. You may have to bootstrap. Okay. So I want to be able to honor that, but it's understanding what you do in a day that actually moves the needle and what you do in a day that does not move the needle, that is just work you're doing, right? So some of the first things I did was I listed out all the tasks I was doing in a given week and the things that were taking me a long time to do that weren't actually moving the needle. So the first person I ever hired was a graphic designer, because even though I can do graphic design, I'm not a good graphic designer. I am not a good web designer. I would argue I'm a very poor one at each. So, but it would take me so much time to do it. So that was the first person I hired. And all of a sudden I'm opening up hours in my day to focus on the things that the 2 to 3 things that move the needle, which honestly for me are talking to clients. Nothing moves the needle like me talking to clients. And no one can talk to clients like I can talk to clients in my own business. Okay. So, one of the next things I hired was Matt. I mean, Max and I have worked together over a decade now. Okay. Why? Because I'm really not good at filming myself. All right. So I need someone at the other end of that camera to make sure that this is working right. All right. So that's part of it, is just figuring out what you're doing that's moving the needle, getting rid of the other stuff, getting it off your plate. But if you cannot, if you're that entrepreneur, if you were that bootstrapper, if this is your side hustle, if this is your thing that you're trying to go on the side, or if your boss is not giving you the budget to be able to do this, then it's about creating the systems to make this work for you. So the strategy I mentioned earlier, which is develop one major piece of content a week and then just multi-purpose that content in a myriad of different ways, that saves hours of time. I used to spend at least an hour a day trying to figure out, what am I posting today? My social media right now is about 5 minutes a day of me posting content, because I already know what I'm going to post because I created it on Monday and I'm just cutting it up or repurposing. And eventually I can hire someone to cut it up for me and they can repurpose it for me. But that's the overall strategy. Now, also I'll add to that, you don't need to be posting every single day on Instagram. That is not something you need to be doing. Just because someone else is doing it and they're showing up 100 times in a week, you don't need to be doing that. If you can get away with 2 or 3 solid, good, proactive posts a week, you're crushing it. You're on top of it. Okay. I would say, though, the one thing I would say when it comes to content marketing, content strategy, is to develop 2 platforms that you are really focused on more than anything else. One can be a platform you rent, and one should be a platform you own. Now, the difference between the two is the following: platforms you rent, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube to some extent. These are rented platforms. And the reason they're rented platforms is you do not own your audience. I post to my 20,000 followers on Instagram, and less than 5% are going to see my post. Less than 5%. And on a bad day, maybe less than 1%. I don't own that audience. Imagine I were to go to Instagram and say, hey, can you send me a CSV file of all my followers and their email addresses? Could I get that from you? Because they're my followers, right? Yeah, right. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. I'm the product on Instagram. So yes, I do focus on Instagram. Yes. Why am I answering? Because that's where my clients are, right? But my goal is then to go to something I own. So what do I own? I own my podcast subscribers. Even though I don't have their names and email addresses, there's no algorithm preventing whether or not someone who subscribed to my podcast is served my podcast. I own my email list. Okay, so we have 10,000 on our email list because we've encouraged them at some point to get off of Instagram, go over to our website and sign up for something. So I can email them. Once again, no algorithm preventing whether or not people get my email. It's just whether or not I send good emails or whether or not they're going to open them. And industry open rates on emails are under 18%. I own my text message list. That's a list I own. So I can communicate with my clients through a text messaging service, one-to-one communication, because once again, that's a list I own. So try to think about, okay, I have these platforms where I rent an audience, but at some point you want to bring an audience to a place that you own, because we've seen it. Instagram goes down, Facebook goes down, and it's happened, it happened 2 or 3 times this year where the platform went down. But what if that's the day you had your launch? What if that's the day you needed to do your big promotion and you can't get Instagram to load or post your stuff? And even when it posts it to 5% of your audience. Have a platform that you own. So your goal should be to drive people from one list into the other list.
And to that point, like if you don't enjoy Twitter or you don't enjoy Instagram, then don't post on there. My mom, she keeps telling me, I know I need to get on Instagram. I know I need to get on Instagram. She gets on it and she doesn't know how to use it. She doesn't like it. Nobody that she knows is even using it. So I'm like, why are you even focusing on Instagram? Stick with what you know, stick with what you're good at, because it's like Warren Buffett. He doesn't buy stock in anything that he doesn't understand. So it's the same thing with your social. Don't do it if you don't really truly buy into it yourself.
So we're down to the last couple of minutes of today's session. It went by so fast because I feel like, man, we could probably continue this conversation for hours or even days. So much great content to share here. But as we wrap up today's conversation, James and Max, are there any closing thoughts that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I just think, get out there, start creating content. Don't let anything hold you back. And, you're going to get better as you go. So practice is kind of within it. So get out there, make it happen, and then adjust.
I would say the biggest focus that I would want to see businesses taking as they're going into 2021 is recognizing those 3 areas that clients go through. The awareness, that's your outbound marketing, the conversion, which is the final transaction, but really focus on that middle step, the nurture step. What can you do to show up in your audience's lives to give information, to give inspiration, or maybe entertainment, if that's your business, information, inspiration, or entertainment, where you're adding value to their lives, because that right there is what's going to build the trust. It's what's going to build the resonance. It's going to build the rapport so that they are more willing to take that next step with you into the conversion phase.
So we did not receive any additional questions from those that participated in today's live session. And so for those that are just going to watch the recorded event, or let's say they get back to the office and think, oh man, I should have asked that great question. What is the best way for them to reach out to the two of you?
You can reach me at my email address, or you could text me, but I'll shoot you my email address. It's just max@thepicnictree.com. I can even put it in the chat here. I don't know if you do like a follow-up with people, but I could put it down there. And then I've also got if you're looking to get a little bit of extra value and we're going to practice what we preach, I've got an awesome free gear guide that if you're looking to kind of get set up, this guide kind of shows you everything you need to kind of get started creating videos and starting to create content. So I'll go ahead and put a link in there as well, totally free. And you guys can get up and running right away.
And then for me, website, super simple. It's just jamespatrick.com, but you can text me and you can text me any of your business questions. This is me. This is not a bot that answers these. So I'll put my number right in the box. So it's 480-605-3254. Any questions you have on marketing, on business development, on sales, on branding, on positioning, on PR, I answer every question I get.
Wonderful. Well, I think this conversation came at a perfect time as we're all preparing to rebrand or to launch our personal and professional brands in 2021. So appreciate all of your additional advice and guidance, Max and James, and look forward to hopefully having you back for one of our future branding sessions.
Thank you.
Thank
Lindsay.
you so much for having us.
All right, A to Z Biz Link community, thanks again for joining us today. We will be in touch to share more details about our 2021 calendar. But in the meantime, definitely feel free to reach out if we can do anything to set you up for personal or professional success. Happy holidays, everyone, and we'll talk soon.